I wrote this quickest, dirtiest, shortest bit of code I could to grab sectors and just write them over to another disk until it achieved legendary status, because we missed a tiny little bit of data and saved the day. And when I saw the standard was becoming more widely accepted, if you like, so we decided to invest in adopting it. It's a big deal. We do a lot of work around trials. We try and make the transition as easy as possible. And we spend a lot of time on that. And so we're a SaaS company, so we're basically renting software to people.
Welcome to The Growth Switch, the podcast where we dive into the strategies, struggles, and breakthroughs of bold business leaders. I'm your host, Jules Fox, growth strategist and lead content creator at Aries Media. I'm here to uncover how today's top brands are scaling, overcoming challenges, and unlocking sustainable success. Now, for those of you just tuning in, Aries Media helps grow successful brands like yours with comprehensive hands-on support for sales, business development, and performance marketing. Go ahead and drop growth into the comments if you want to learn how to do it. Very exciting day. We have Pete Henderson on The Growth Switch. He's the founder of Pisys, a safety-driven SaaS company that's been building cloud-based permit-to-work and incident response tools for global teams since 1988, long before digital transformation was a buzzword. This is a guy who knows his stuff. Pete, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I should say that I was only 10 when I set up the business. Yeah. I'm not as old as I look.
So, I heard that long ago you got some information from a guy in a pub about how to place your company. Tell me more about that story.
Yeah. So probably the main bit of business advice I've picked up over the last 40 odd years is don't take advice from your mates in a pub, because he suggested that I was looking for a name for the business, and he suggested that Arvark would be a good name, AARD, being at the start of the word. And he said that you'll definitely be at the front of the phone book if you do that. And of course, I just took his word for it and set up a company called Arvark, and quickly realised that there are lots of names in front of Arvark, like A1 window cleaners and A2 taxis and whatever else. So we changed it after a few years, because many people told us it was a bad name. In hindsight, I quite liked it. I think I should have stuck to my guns, but we're called Pisys now, so we're happy enough with that.
Absolutely. Pisys, definitely like on the radar, one of the up and coming companies. Now you started the company a long time ago. What's the biggest thing that has changed as far as safety protocols since then? Because, you've been solving these problems for decades. So what has changed in the landscape of safety and security?
I guess my background was in the offshore energy industry, and my job was to go offshore. We didn't have internet. So as a software engineer in those days, I physically had to go off on a boat and write and maintain and debug software, quite often very last minute, to do a particular task, like navigate a vessel or acquire data from sensors and produce reports, because everything happened on the vessel in those days. And my experience of health and safety was quite different to what it would be now. And I think the energy sector has moved on a long way since then, because there were some very, very sketchy health and safety practices. It's a dangerous place to be in a boat in the middle of the ocean, small boat normally, and there was lots of gaps in terms of health and safety. And I think the energy sector has driven quite a lot of change across multiple industries now, because they really have taken a lot of the lessons. There have been various incidents in that sector, and that has driven quite a lot of change. So it's been good to see that. But we've diversified quite widely since those days of the early 80s, when we were scampering around in small boats. So we've got the internet now, which is amazing.
Yeah, what a trial by fire. I mean, you definitely, like, if that was a moment to weed out all the people who weren't very serious about their jobs and wanted to stick to that,
Absolutely, yeah. I found a box of floppy disks that I used to carry around everywhere with me. And my wife was strongly suggesting that I throw them away, but I must squirrel them away as a relic. They'll be worth a fortune one day.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I don't know. So I also remember floppy disks. I just remember that, sometimes if you put them in again and again, they would break. Like there was a physical breakdown of the things. You often would get the edges that would almost crumble because you've popped them in too many times,
Absolutely. One of the best bits of code that I ever did was I got woken up on a boat, a survey job, and they'd recorded some quite crucial data on a floppy disk, and somewhere between recording it and processing it, it had picked up a fault. A little speck of dust or a scratch or something, and they needed to make a very quick decision about whether they were going to turn the expensive boat around and go back and resurvey the bit of seabed that they were looking at. And I wrote this quickest, dirtiest, shortest bit of code I could to grab sectors and just write them over to another disk and skip the one that was bad, and it achieved legendary status because we missed a tiny little bit of data and saved the day. So that was good.
Oh my
I've written
God.
much longer and less useful programs since then, to be honest.
Yeah. That's amazing. A speck of dust could have ruined the entire mission.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, I feel like a lot of companies are still using paper-based permit to work systems. So
Yeah.
why do you think that digital adoption in safety has lagged behind?
I think a lot of it is down to fear of change. I think that there are a cohort of people who've worked their entire lives in a particular industry and done things in a particular way. And thanks for mentioning the permit to work systems. That's probably one of the main health and safety tools that we supply. There's a wide. I mean, we go into very large companies and find that they are using a paper-based permit to work system, and generally nobody thinks it's a good idea, but they just can't move away from it because they've got a vast organization full of people who are used to doing things in a particular way, and quite often you've got people who are in control of that who just can't they just can't make the change because
Yeah,
it's such a big.
sometimes humans just get stuck in their programming, right? Sometimes we cannot get out of our own code. So
Yeah.
when people do choose to work with you, when people discover Pisys, when they choose to work with your company, how can you help them through that? How can you navigate that struggle along with them as a journey?
It's very much about getting to the people who are the change agents, if you like. So normally we will be approached by somebody who wants to make a change, and that person will normally be in a position to do that, but they need quite a lot of support. Then it can often be quite a long process because we've got to get buy-in, or they've got to get buy-in with our help to get that system into the organization. We do a lot of work around trials. We try and make the transition as easy as possible. And we spend a lot of time on that. And so we're a SaaS company, so we're basically renting software to people. And my take on it is that if year one is really about making sure that these people are happy and comfortable with our software, and we have to invest an awful lot in year one to make that happen, then I'm happy with that because our clients hang around for a long time, and we want to make sure that they're actually totally comfortable with the system. And that often happens because we offer free support as part of the deal, and that could take quite a lot of time, particularly in the early stages as people are getting used to it. So
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I think that adoption is always one of the biggest issues.
yeah.
It's almost like it doesn't matter how good the software is. If the workflows are such that the company's not on board to adopt the right new tools to help them out, then it's not going to help out,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hear that you guys are certified in ISO 27001, which is the international standard. Tell me a little bit more about this holistic approach to protecting data.
See, 7001 is an international standard for information security management systems. So it's the kind of global standard that is, wherever you go in the world, this standard will apply. What happened was that about 10 years ago, we realized that we were getting asked quite a lot of questions about the security of our data, and we were constantly having to talk to security teams. We were having to fill in lots of forms and produce lots of evidence for what we did. And when I saw the standard was becoming more widely accepted, if you like, so we decided to invest in adopting it. It's a big deal. It takes a long time, costs a lot of money to do because you've got to go on courses, and you've got to get check audits, and you've got to empower your team and get them on board as well. So it was a big deal, but actually it's been really good, and it takes a more holistic view of security. Now it does dive in to the actual detail of how you physically protect your data. For example, how do you what sort of password integrity and all that stuff. How do you manage your software development process? But it also looks at how do you validate your suppliers? How secure is your building? Who are your stakeholders? What macro factors are in play? Is there legislation that you have to comply with, for example? So it's good. So it makes you think. It takes you out of the very hands-on deep dive. And let's face it, there are constantly evolving threats in that area, and you have to have a process around that, how you're going to evaluate and manage those threats. That's part of what the standard does as well. It makes sure that you have a constantly evolving process, and you can keep an eye on what's happening. So, the idea is that your processes will evolve as the threats evolve.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I feel like we're on a timeline. As the security gets better, the hackers get better, the malware, all the bad stuff gets better. And as the bad stuff gets better, well, then the security needs to get better as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So you work on a lot of mission critical software for industries where good enough is simply not safe enough. A lot of people are like, it's pretty good. Like if you talk to people in general, I suspect that they would say, yeah, we're doing pretty good. But if you actually did a deep dive, if you did an audit of the company, you'd say, okay, so pretty good is actually going to leave you open to a lot of vulnerabilities and possible awful situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've definitely had scenarios where the customers that we're talking to they just perhaps don't have an awareness of some of the threats that are out there. Because we're responsible for our own data. We host in a very secure way, so customers can be reassured that we are making the best possible job of securing their data. But sometimes a customer will ask us to let them host their own systems, and that can be quite challenging when perhaps their security may not be up to the same level as what we would provide from our data centers.
Yeah. Do you guys struggle with silos as well? Sometimes companies, they have their verticals, they're broken up into different silos. Each one thinks they're doing great, but data can be scattered, permissions can be scattered. Is that a tricky situation?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's actually, it's a tricky situation, but it's actually a good talking point when, particularly, and permitting is a good example of that, because what a permit to work, and I'm not talking about visas or work permits, we're talking about if you want to do a piece of work on it, for example, a large site, then say you want to go up a ladder and change a piece of electrical equipment, you have to have a permit to allow you to go up that ladder and do that work. And that permit will have things like, are you qualified to do the work? Have you done a risk assessment on that task? And more importantly, in some ways, it'll also say, is there anything else happening nearby that might affect that job? Now, you could, and a paper-based system leaves you wide open to this, where you can have somebody filling in a permit in one part of the site for going up a ladder and doing some electrical work. Quite independently of that, in another little silo, somebody's organised to paint the wall right underneath the ladder that you're going to be climbing. So you get all this simultaneous work going on, and quite often you don't know it's happening until two guys turn up to work in the same area, and you can't do it because it's too risky. So we do see a lot of silo, and particularly companies who have got big sites and quite complex sites with lots of nooks and crannies, and also geographically quite large as well. So having a centralized way of looking at data relating to health and safety is a game changer for them.
Yeah. I mean, that overlap where there's miscommunications, it seems like it would solve quite a bit of that. Now, it's fantastic that you solve problems for other companies, but as far as solving problems for your own company, how have you pivoted and grown over the last few decades?
So I guess for the first, I reckon for the first fully 10 years of our existence, we were very much a combination of building bespoke products for people and selling time. So we were consulting and getting paid for time. Now, of those two things, selling time is definitely easier than developing bespoke systems, because in my experience of bespoke, and lots of the people that I talk to in the industry would, our experience has been poor of making any money out of that because customers don't know what they want. And they can't, even if they do know what they want, they can't tell you because they have no vocabulary to explain it. But they have a very clear picture in their head, which they can't translate effectively. So we lack the tools often to translate their vision into a specification that can be accurately costed. So, and the other problem, of course, is that their requirements change in a often unpredictable way during the project. So we've stepped away from that. The other part of our business was selling consultancy. Now that's fine, but there is a kind of emptiness about that because you feel like you're not really building anything. There's nothing of ours in that. So we felt that what we wanted to do was focus on having our own products and something that we could be proud of. We could invest our development skills in building something on our own terms, really, and something that can then last and develop.
Yeah. So having gone through that transition of figuring out exactly what you can deliver that is the best fit for these companies, okay? And now being at this point where you're able to deliver this, you're internationally certified, you're a recognized company, you have a track history of growth, all these people. How do you connect with the right companies? Like, say you wanted to 10x your own company growth over the next 3 years. What would you do to do that?
Yeah, well, in some way, I mean, we face the same challenges as everyone else does, but the things that are in our favor, I guess, is we've been around for a while. And we get quite a lot of referral business. The market for health and safety professionals is quite often mobile because quite often you'll find that people join projects. The project completes, then they move on to another project, maybe another business, and we get repeat business from that. There's also, it's a relative niche, health and safety. I mean, it's a big niche. There's a lot of people in it, but it's pizza delivery, for example, it's pretty niche. So you can, it's probably slightly easier to get to the people you need to get to, but we do all the things that I guess everybody else does. We have done a bit with paid ads. We try and make sure our website is generating leads. We go to contact people directly and introduce ourselves like that. So yeah, it is a challenge.
Yeah. I mean, it's a challenge that we all face. Now, for all of the viewers and listeners of this podcast, you're going to find links to where you can connect with Pete down below. But Pete, where can people find you so that they can connect with you, match up the right companies with the right service?
Yeah, so we're at Pisys, and we're pisys.co.uk. We're based in Scotland. I'm currently up in the northeast of Scotland in a city called Aberdeen, and it's 10 degrees here at the moment. It's probably about 30 degrees where you are, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely always sunny in San Diego,
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. Pete, thank you so much. It's been fantastic having you on the podcast. I really appreciate your time and expertise.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.